today at Lord's. We're joined by one of the greats of the game, Kane Williamson. Does it all start with the head position?
The head and the shoulder and having a nice stable base.
What about hands?
It's quite a standard sort of grip. I'm quite neutral, a little bit around the back with my bottom hand, which is just comfortable for me.
What about trigger movement?
The fundamentals are key, and that's being really nice and still. Being ready as a batter as well, I think, is underrated, because you want to be preparing against a high standard. That's what I like to try and do, where you're really testing yourself. So I'm wanting to make sure my head and shoulders really engaged. I'm able to generate power by not releasing the back hip too early. Like these little things that are really important to my game. If a trigger and these other bits and pieces help get you into a better position to do that, that's absolutely fine.
And as a lefty, a lot of people used to say, I was just too closed off, have to open up a little bit.
It's important. I mean, like you say, left and right hand's quite different because the angles change, but having it involved and engaged is really important, so you're not sort of releasing the body too early. So if it's not really there, you can get a bit handsy.
How does things differentiate as you face spin bowlers, whether it be a leggy, a finger spinner?
You do need to address some of those challenges. Sometimes when you're facing, or often when you're facing seam bowlers, you're a little bit shorter in your position to give yourself a little bit more time, be nice and still. I think the nature of spin bowling, it being slower, it being able to react off the surface a little bit more. I prefer to be a bit longer, so you're trying to smother length and make give the spinner as little area as possible to work with.
Cricket Life Stories with me, Neel Khagram. Today at Lord's, we're joined by one of the greats of the game, Kane Williamson. Kane, how's it all going, man?
Yeah, good, thank you.
How have you found your summer so far in England?
It's been really good. Enjoyed the summer.
Here is a beautiful ground as well.
Yeah, well, the home of cricket, so it's pretty attractive when the opportunity arose. That's really nice to spend as much time here as possible, and obviously here with the Spirit and Middlesex. So it's been enjoyable.
And in this one, we're just going to talk about a bit of batting technique, some tips perhaps you can give a young player, an amateur player, a village player like myself.
Yeah.
Does it all start with the head position in the setup?
I think that's really important. Some of the foundations of your game, and it starts with the head and the shoulder and having a nice stable base. So ultimately you want to be watching the ball as closely as you can, and if your head's moving all over the shop, that makes it quite difficult. So a great place to start would be to be nice and still, so your head's still, keeping your eyes level, and then after that there's a few other bits and pieces too.
What about hands? Does it also vary between the different formats, or is it pretty consistent?
I think
maybe you can just show your
slightly different for everybody, I believe. I mean, you sort of all shapes and sizes, different heights, etc. So how you address the ball will change depending on how you want to play. But yeah, for me, it's quite a standard sort of grip. I'm quite neutral, a little bit around the back with my bottom hand, which is just comfortable for me. A lot of people will grow up getting taught to have their V's sort of to the left of centre, which is a great place to start. And as you sort of keep understanding your game, and the more you practice and play, then you start to just figure out a few little things that might suit you and where you're trying to access different areas of the ground. So for me, playing straight and trying to play late's really important, and I just find when I'm a little bit more neutral with the bottom hand and I'm able to release and not push out in front, is fundamental for my game.
What about trigger movements? A lot of coaches, when I've been growing up through the age groups, say you need one, you don't need one. Where do you sit on that? And again, any tips you can give like a young player?
I think you only need one if you need one, and I think you work backwards. So what are the threats or the challenges that you are facing? What you see, I think a lot of people is they'll sort of be influenced by what they see and impressionable, which is cool and it's fun to try, but you want to experience the challenges that are in front of you, so you can adjust your game in real time, if that makes sense. Otherwise the search, as we all know well, can send you in a lot of different directions. So keep coming back to what's important to your game, and for me the fundamentals are key, and that's being really nice and still. Being ready as a batter as well, I think is underrated, because you want to be preparing against a high standard. That's what I like to try and do, where you're really testing yourself. So I'm wanting to make sure my head and shoulders really engaged. I'm able to generate power by not releasing the back hip too early. Like these little things that are really important to my game. If a trigger and these other bits and pieces help get you into a better position to do that, that's absolutely fine, but there's no sort of mandatory need to have one, I don't think.
I'm glad you mentioned the word shoulder there. Again, as a lefty, a lot of people used to say I was just too closed off, have to open up a little bit. Again, were they talking nonsense, or?
No,
I've got to ask one of the greats.
No, it's important. I mean, like you say, left and right hand's quite different because the angles change, but having it involved and engaged is really important, so you're not sort of releasing the body too early. So if it's not really there, you can get a bit handsy, you can push out in front, whereas I think it locks everything in a little bit. So making sure your alignment's good. So for a right-hander to a right-arm seamer, it's important that you're sort of in that half side-on position. And you mentioned you're left-hander.
I am,
there
yes,
you go.
yeah.
So left-hander to a right-armer sort of bowling over the wicket, you really want to make sure your access to the ball is there. So you set up accordingly, but having it engaged as a part of your setup is important.
And how does things differentiate as you face spin bowlers, whether it be a leggy, a finger spinner?
Yeah.
Does things change, or is it all about just picking out the hands?
Things definitely change, but there's a number of elements there. Sometimes facing spin when it doesn't spin, is much more like.
Bit? Yeah.
Well, no, I mean sometimes we can overcomplicate it and actually treat it like balls that are coming at you straight versus the idea of a spinner. The other thing is when it spins, and you do need to address some of those challenges. Sometimes when you're facing, well, often when you're facing seam bowlers, you're a little bit shorter in your position to give yourself a little bit more time, be nice and still. I think the nature of spin bowling, it being slower, it being able to react off the surface a little bit more. I prefer to be a bit longer, so you're trying to smother length and give the spinner as little area as possible to work with. So, if they're concerned about where they're trying to land it, then you're sort of putting them under pressure. So if you can get out to the full ball and drive it and get nice and deep and really use that space, I think it's really important.
And a couple more bits before we end. A lot of people hear commentators say you've got to see the ball early but play it late. For me, as an amateur player, that just sounds ridiculous, but
yeah.
How do you go about that?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. I think that's just encouraging you to watch the ball, and really bring your attention to it. So this idea of playing later, I think it's just how you address the ball, because sometimes, you hear the words play late and it implies being passive, and I don't believe that's the case. I think it's actually creating a shape where, you're sort of trying to hit that top half of the ball, so the ball's going into the ground rather than sort of behind it, if that makes sense. So I think that's important, but watch the ball nice and hard, and bring your attention to the bowler's hands is important.
And then the last question, this could be a topic and a video all by itself, but the mental side of the game, is it just about trusting the process as opposed to seeing each individual innings as such?
Yeah, I mean, trusting the process is key, but also being aware of the different challenges that you'll face in each innings, because it varies all the time. And also the awareness when you're distracted. To me, that's important. That's why the process and the routine's key, is to try and deal with distraction, which we all suffer from. So the better we can do that, the better our decision making can be, and I think that's valuable for any player. And
if there's just one tip just to end on for a young player,
yeah,
what would it be from the great Kane Williamson?
Gosh, I think there's probably a little bit in that chat already, but I'm big on the fundamentals, and I think something that you can trust. So, playing, for me, it's always been trying to play nice and straight, and then you bring in these other elements to your game, because you always go through different phases with your play. And so I like to know that you can trust that you're playing the ball straight, that your defence is strong, and then you can bring in your scoops and your laps and all these other things that, depending on the format. But yeah.
Kane, perfect. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
No worries.